Hello and welcome back to the Set Design channel. Today we are going to be learning how to use Vectorworks in 3D. My name is Greg here, I am a set designer and I use this software all the time for clients such as Amazon, Netflix, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Fox, and the big one, Dave. So hopefully in this video I can share a little bit of that experience and knowledge to help you feel a little bit more confident in modelling in 3 dimensions in Vectorworks. Because of time restraints, I have had to record this over a few different days. I'm doing my best to keep up the continuity with the lighting and costume being this green t-shirt. So if you spot the continuity issues, please put the time codes in the comments. Also, like and subscribe. This will actually be a two-part video. In the first video, we're going to be running through some basic exercises to get you used to the 3D modelling tools in Vectorworks and the benefits of it. And then in the second video, we will be modelling something a little bit more interesting. In fact, we'll be modelling out here the fire escape that joins my apartment to the next apartment across. There's a few interesting shapes in there, a few tricksy things, including a spiral staircase, and I thought that'd be quite an interesting exercise for people to learn how to model in 3 dimensions. Hello, Editing Greg here. It turns out that I may have got carried away with this video and it runs about 2 hours long. So to avoid making it, do you want to go? Okay, off you go. So I may have got carried away with this video and it's currently running at about 2 hours long. So I've decided to release it in a series of shorter chapters, and then eventually, once they're all out, I'll release one long supercut if anyone wants to watch it in that way. I'd recommend watching both versions if you really want to get the most out of it. That's not just me trying to inflate my viewership figures. Anyway, back to the main video. Once you get used to working in Vectorworks in 3 dimensions, it really speeds up your workflow because you can take that 3D model, as long as it's correctly modelled, and start cutting sections out of it to generate your drawings. So you take the one model and you make little cross sections of it, much like we've done in another video of how to make set drawings, which you can find up here, or this side, I can't remember which side the links go on. And because the tools cover everything from 3D modelling all the way through to full design documentation, you can keep your whole workflow inside one piece of software, which is nice. However, it can seem quite daunting at first learning to model in Vectorworks. There's a lot on the screen, it seems like there's a lot to learn, which there is. But in the next half hour or so, we're going to run through some exercises that will get you 3D modelling stuff in no time. But most importantly, we're modelling efficiently, in an organised manner, and to scale, because there's no point in making a model in set design of something you can't build. So we're going to break down all the 3D tools in Vectorworks, show how they work, show how to use them, and show how to use them in the context of something you might want to model up for a building, or a movie set, or an interior design. And in part 2 of the video, we're then going to take everything we've learned to show you how you can model up something a little bit more impressive. Now there are a few basic things about operating a 3D space in Vectorworks that's probably worth going through before we really get carried away with all the different tools. So I'm going to teach you that in our first section, Navigation Basics. Intermediate users of Vectorworks might want to skip ahead, feel free to do that, but there might be some stuff here that you might not already know. So at the top here you have layers. There are 2 different types of layer. They are sheet layers and design layers. Now, the way a sheet layer works is that is where your drawing is going to go. You'll have your title block there, you'll put dimensions on your drawings, you'll do all sorts. So we're actually going to ignore sheet layers for the purposes of this video, and we're going to be working on the design layers. Now think of design layers as your 3D workplaces in which you would basically model up your creation, whether that is a prop or a set or whatever. And what you would do with that is then eventually take that through in various viewports, as they call them, like basically just flat images, that you take through to the sheets to draw. So we'll be focusing on design layers. Now you can have as many design layers in your document as you like, and it's often quite good to do that and just keep naming those so that you know when you're flicking through things you can remind yourself of what you've done on each layer. This is quite good for separating the different parts of your model if you have an overall architectural layer and then the parts inside it, such as pieces of furniture or something complex that you've had to model. You might want to keep that on a separate layer to work on it and then drop it into the main layer later on should you wish. If you would like to learn how to take one of your models eventually and turn it into a set of drawings for your set, click on the link up here. There's a video that shows you how you would do that. Now by default, if we are working in a design layer, you will have one big sort of viewport that shows you what you're doing, and you can move the camera around, which we'll get onto that in more detail shortly. But if you want to see your model from various angles, a quick thing you can do is tap M and it will break the screen into 4 and you will have what's called a multi-view setup. which can be quite handy when your model starts getting a little bit complex and you want to sort of keep track of what you're doing from various angles if you're moving stuff precisely. And if you want to go back to the full screen mode, you can just simply select the viewport you want to go into, tap M again, and it goes back to the full screen setup we had before. Even if that's something you don't use regularly, it can be handy to know the key to get back out of it if you've accidentally got yourself into multi-screen mode. Something that's definitely worth knowing from the off is if you tap the space key, a set of quick tools will hover up around your mouse pointer, which can be a quick way of, for instance, changing the camera angle to one of the standard viewpoints like front, top, or isometric. It's also a way of quickly getting to some of the other tools that you might use regularly in the other menus that pop out. And that will save you a lot of time moving your mouse all the way over to this menu on the left to then go back to what you're working on. What will also save you a lot of time is keyboard shortcuts. Now, I will explain what the keyboard shortcuts are for every tool that I'm using, or at least try to remember to. And if you want to learn more keyboard shortcuts, there is a reference card that you can download off the Vectorworks website. I've put the link in the description to take you there. That should hopefully help you out. Something I believe is new to the 2025 version of Vectorworks is this little handy widget in the bottom corner here that allows you to quickly flick to some standard viewpoints of your model, which can be very useful if you want to see it in plan view or elevation view, for instance. If you want to move your camera around freely, the key to success is your scroll wheel. If you hold down the scroll wheel and move the mouse, your camera will pan along a flat plane, and if you want to rotate the camera, you can hold Control and then scroll wheel and then move around, and that will rotate your camera around the object you're working on. Something to keep in mind is the rotation can sometimes feel a bit weird in Vectorworks. This might be because your orbit tool, or flyover tool it's called in Vectorworks, is set to the wrong setting. Now, if you select it manually from the menu, up in the top left, there will be a few different modes to that tool. Try out what each one does. I usually have it set to interactive origin mode, but depending on which way you like your camera to rotate, you can change that. Keep that in mind, because every tool we're going to learn will probably have a few different modes to it up in the top left here. So if I'm saying turn it to this mode, that's where you need to look. But aside from needing to occasionally change the mode of the tool, you should never really have to reach for the pan or the rotate flyover tool. Similarly, if you simply want to zoom in and out of what you're working on, you can scroll up and down on the scroll wheel, and that will zoom in and out of whatever it is you're working on. Keep in mind that by default, Vectorworks is usually on what's called orthogonal mode, which means that there is no perspective. You're effectively always looking at a sort of two-dimensional image with zero perspective to it. If you want to change that and you want to add perspective to what you're looking at, sometimes it's quite good to see your 3D object, how it would be seen in a 3D space. You can click up here to this drop-down menu, and that will allow you to change from orthogonal to various points of perspective. And you can even set it to a custom field of view if you really want to get nerdy about that kind of thing. So the other thing that's worth knowing from the beginning is that the select tool has a shortcut, and that is the X key. So if you want to revert back to your select tool, tap X, and if you want to deselect everything you currently have selected, double tap X. This is the quickest way you can clear what you've got selected before you move on to your next task. Do watch out though, because you might sometimes accidentally put little kisses in your drawings for your construction manager. I'm not actually expecting everyone to remember all these shortcuts, but I'm just saying them because you might find it interesting and useful. And you may pick it up over time. You can also quickly change the view style at the top here. This will change the mode from things like wireframe to shaded, to basic hidden line, and even some of the crazy artistic styles if you're a proper psychopath. Another really handy thing is this little X-ray bubble thing that can pop up if you hold down the B key. This will turn an area of your screen into wireframe mode if you're trying to select something that might be obscured by something else in your model should it be getting complex. Now, something that will probably catch you out early on when you're trying to work in 3 dimensions is if you try to draw a shape such as a rectangle or a circle, you'll probably be locked onto the layer plane, which means you can only draw on the flat space. If, of course, you want to work in 3 dimensions and you want to draw things in other axes other than the flat plane, which you are likely to do, go up to the top left and switch your tool that you have, such as the rectangle tool, over to autoplane. When you're set to autoplane, it will automatically adapt your drawing angle to whatever surface you are hovering over, which can be very handy. Also in your basic toolbar, you will have the snapping tools. Now this will allow you to turn on and off snapping based on various things. So you can have it turned on and off to objects, and that way that when you move something, you can clip it onto the corner or the face of an object. You can have angle turned on, which means that if you're rotating something, it will snap to standard increments of rotation, like 45, 90 degrees, that kind of stuff. And there's a few other options as well, like intersections, where different things intersect. You will find yourself turning these on and off as you're working. The one I will recommend having on most of the time is smart points. That will usually allow you to hover over something and create what's called a smart point for you to move your item towards. Like any of the tools in this video, you are going to end up learning this as time goes on. But just know that your tools are up here, turn them on and off as you please. You will learn with a bit of practice which ones are useful for doing which kind of tasks. And the most important thing when we start drawing out shapes in any CAD software is making sure that we draw things to scale. Now, to keep things simple, I usually have my software set to millimeters. You can do this when you're setting up a blank document. You can go into File, Document Settings, Units, and change it from there. Now, the reason I have things set to millimeters generally with whatever software I'm using is that it is the right level of accuracy and also very simple, so that if I want to draw a 1 meter line, I select the line tool, which is number 2 on the keyboard, click where I want the line to start, move the mouse in the direction I want that line to go, and then I type in 1000 and then enter twice. And then what that does is that means that I know that I have a line then that is exactly 1 meter in length. If I click on it and select it, in the top right I can see that it says L, which is the length, 1000. Now if I want to move that, and I'm going back to the select tool, and I will move that along, and you'll see that same little box will pop up. If I want to move it by 2 meters, I type in 2000, and I know that I've moved my line across by 2000. Keep this in mind with everything you do in Vectorworks, because you want to make sure that your model is straight and makes sense and is rational. But once you start trying to move stuff freely, it can get a little bit messy. That's all well and good if you're doing an interior, you just want to move some furniture around. But if you want to design something that needs to be constructed, you want to make sure that you keep that scale rational and you make sure you keep everything modeled to scale and straight. And the best way of doing that is making sure that you type your coordinates in as you work from the off. It's just a good practice. It will actually save you a hell of a lot of time. So get in the habit of doing that. So what we're going to do to demonstrate this is we're going to make a basic cube. To do that, we're going to use the rectangle tool. If you tap 4 on the keyboard, that will select your rectangle tool. Next, you want to click where you want to start your rectangle, where you want your bottom corner to be. Click and then move diagonally in the direction you want your square to go. Next, you'll notice this little blue rectangle with coordinates in it. So we're going to type in the X and Y coordinates. So we type in 1000, and then to go to the Y coordinates, we tap Tab, and we want to type in 1000 again. This will give us a perfect square. You want to tap Enter twice, and that commits it to a square. Great stuff, we've got a square, but we want to go 3D with it. So if we have push-pull mode selected, if we then immediately hover over our square, it should go red. If you then click on that and then move the mouse upwards, and remember it's not a click and drag, it's a click and move, and then type in 1000 again, lo and behold, you have a perfect 1 meter square. Now remember, that is how we want to model everything we do, whether that is a cylinder, a rectangle, anything, and we'll also utilize that when we're moving stuff so that we know that we've moved stuff the exact amount of distance that we want to move it. It seems really awkward and annoying at first, but it's actually really good to keep a level of accuracy in your models and how you're working, because when you're working in a 3D space, things can get messy very quickly. So do get your head into the mindset of typing your coordinates in as you go. So if we have our cube selected, over on the right we have a handy thing called the Object Info panel. Now what this does is it tells us some basic information about our selection. So we have our cube selected and it will tell us what it is. Technically it is an extrude, which means it is a two-dimensional shape that we have pushed upwards or extruded. And it tells us that it measures 1000 by 1000 by 1000 millimeters. Therefore a cubic meter. If you wanted to resize it, you could actually type new coordinates into that, and that's a way of resizing things. Or there's other ways of doing that, which we will get into in a bit. If you want to get really nerdy about your cube, you can click on the model menu and click volumetric properties, and that'll give you even more details about your shape. This is getting quite advanced, so we'll move on to the next thing. Now, underneath your layers drop-down menu are your classes. Now, these are a little bit different to layers. a bit advanced for what we're doing in this video, but I thought I'd let you know they exist. Basically, if you've got a relatively complex model, what you can do is assign classes to them if you want to turn certain things on and off at different times, if you want to hide things, for instance, at times for a certain type of drawing that you're doing. So I'll let you know that is where the classes are. And everything to do with layers and classes can also be navigated in the bottom right navigation panel, where you can flick between the different sheet layers, design layers, classes, viewports, and all sorts. So everything in your model will generally be assembled here. You might use that panel to find things in your model. And the final point is that I use keyboard shortcuts to save a lot of time. So I might not get a chance to explain what every single keyboard shortcut is. I will try, but if you would like help with learning them, there is a link to a cheat sheet in the video description. So thank you for watching the first chapter of this series where we look at 3D modelling in Vectorworks. If you've enjoyed it, I'll be getting the next one out in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, take care. Thank you for watching the Set Design channel, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.